Here at the Offstage Me, I have affiliate codes and links and things for certain brands. They're all in the video description here. But I never associate myself with a brand that I don't try and love the products from first. And one of those brands is Tom Studio. I tried a couple of their pens, loved them, and then got on board with their program because it means I get to share more products with you, and also it means you can get a discount by using the code in the video description here. Now, I have a new product from them. It is the Ori. This is a infinitely refillable permanent marker, duo marker pen. Today, we are going to be looking at this, and I'm really excited because I think it is really cool. So this is going to be a two-stage video. The first stage, the day I've got this, where I'll be filling it and sort of showing how that all operated. And then the second part of this video is sort of like more the review after a couple of weeks of using it and just seeing how it performs. So please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, and consider becoming a member of this channel, where for a small monthly fee, you'll get early access to my videos, priority comments, and a few other bits and pieces along the way. I want to say here a big thank you to the team at Tom Studio for their support of this channel. I really appreciate it, and I love the fact that I get to pass on some of that support to you, my viewers. So let's check out the Ori and see what it's all about. So here we have the Ori. Today is the day I have gotten this product. So I thought we'd do a quick little like first impressions and an ink up. I am waiting still on the highlighter ink for one half of this because you can use a highlighter in this. This is how it comes packaged. It's very nice and simple. I like it. I like the bright orange. I think it looks great. That slips off, and then the pen is in here, and this is the Ori itself. Now, it is very sleek, and there are other versions of this you can get. I love this black. I love the little Tom Studio logo in the top there. You get a blue permanent ink, a black permanent ink, and then in the bottom of here, some information, and this sort of goes how to fill it, the top tips, all those kinds of things. A little bit of information about what inks you can use, all of that. Very, very useful. I'm going to be using the black ink today, so I might take that out of there. And what else did I get in my package? Well, I got bits and bobs. In here is two things. Firstly, the silicone gripper to help remove the tips, which I'll show you in a second. And also some, what do they call them? Swatch stickers. So this is what you put on the end in that little disc there, and so you know what color you've got in there. So my plan is to have a marker on one end and a highlighter in the other, because then this pen replaces two pens in my setup, providing it does everything it's designed to do. And I'm going to put it under a couple of basic tests for that as well. I also got some spare reservoirs. So I'll show you the system in a bit, but you get the reservoirs. I got brush tips, which you can see in there, and then highlighter tips. So I'm going to need one of those. So I'll take one of those out and pop that on there as well. Because this is a double-ended pen. It's completely cylindrical. One end, two ends for different ink types. So I'm going to keep what I'm going to call the bullet tip on one end for a permanent black ink. And then I'm going to swap out the bullet tip on the other end. And once it arrives, the highlighter ink will go in here, and then that will be in the pen for the full part of this review. So I'm going to slide that out there. There's the reservoir. And then you can grab the tip here over the tip and then pull out the tip from there. Now, I'm going to be using this highlighter tip in this end, so I'm going to push that down into there. And then the reservoir will go on there. And I'm going to screw that back in so that when I come to needing that for the highlighter portion, I can easily do that. But this end is what I'm going to be using now. So unscrewing that end there. How this works is I've done other videos about this in the past as well, is you dip that into your ink reservoir, ink bottle, and ink is drawn up into this sort of like fibrous reservoir, and then through to the tip of the pen, and you're able to write. And then when it runs out of ink, you simply refill it by dipping it back in the ink. So this is the permanent black ink. A bit of information about it there. So I'm going to fill up this now. Put that in the ink bottle. And it's sucking up into through the reservoir. And then once it reaches the top of that, you take it out. And it will make its way to the tip. It dab the outside of that down. Then I'm just going to put it into the pen body. And we'll watch it creep its way up to the top of the pen. I'll just hit fast forward on that so you can sort of see it happening a bit quicker. Well, that's pretty good. That'll be ready to write in just a second. So a couple of little sort of things. Firstly, you can use any ink in this almost. So with the exception of things like calligraphy inks and shimmer inks, any particle ink isn't going to necessarily be great for this pen. But any fountain pen ink, this is a permanent ink. And the idea of that, of course, in my perspective, is to replace something like a Sharpie from my setup. It's great to have a permanent marker on hand, and so using this permanent ink, which is designed for it in this pen, is designed to do that. So when I do the full review, I will test it on a few different surfaces of things. But right now, let's just see it writing on paper. So, well, it's certainly nice, solid black marker. I think it's laying down a pretty good amount of ink. It dries quickly, relatively quickly. And the reverse of that, actually, that's pretty good. Like, you know, this is Ayush paper, which is a wonderful paper. Let's just now see it with a Sharpie itself. But you can see there's less bleed through than a regular Sharpie. Let's just test it on some other surfaces very quickly. Firstly, cardboard, because I don't know about you, but I do a lot of like marking up boxes and things like at work and places. So this is where a Sharpie is really useful. Yeah, that writes nice and, you know, very consistently there on the card. And then here is a plastic envelope, which if you're using a fountain pen or anything like that, just isn't going to actually write. So let's give that a test. So it writes on there very nicely. Let's test do the test of the dry time. Well, that just smears straight off. So go 10 seconds. You can see as it drying, it does adhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a nice squiggle, and then I'm just going to leave it to dry and come back and see if it handles touch and moisture. Okay, so it's been a few minutes. This is just my first test. I also ended up writing with a Sharpie here. So basically, these are designed to be able to write on glass, ceramic, wood, metal, and things like packaging, plastics, and more. So this is why I've chosen this today. It is a water-based permanent ink, and I'm going to be doing more tests in the full part of this review, so stay tuned in this video coming up next for a bit more on that. This is just a first check of it and first impression. So, you know, now it's dry, it's not rubbing off there, and then with a little bit of moisture on it, not really going anywhere either. And the same, obviously, with the Sharpie. So far, so good. it's even blacker than the Sharpie. The Sharpie looks kind of like grey-blue on this. So that is the first tests with the Ori. As I said, I'm going to put a highlighter on one end, permanent marker on the other. I'll use them for a while. I'll do a bunch of tests and then show it in some more detail. But so far, this is not, as I'm filming this portion, the pen isn't released. So I can't talk about cost, all that kind of stuff. But hopefully by the time I film the second half of this video, I'll have all that information for you. So switch over to that now. Okay, so here we are with part 2. Now, I've been using this for a couple of weeks. I have my highlighter ink now, which is the Tom's Studio Fluoro Yellow here, which is super yellow. On the website, it looks more green than it is, so I'm glad how yellow it is because that's what I like as a highlighter. So I have a couple of things to talk about. And then I'm going to show some tests. So firstly, this is now available up on the website and it costs £45. Now there are other elements. I've shown all the packaging and all the bits and pieces, but in the packet you get things like 2 bullet tips and inks and things like that. So a little bit more about the pricing. The inks for the full 30ml bottle are £9 and the 5ml sample size bottles are £4.50. You can get the tips and they start at £2.95 for 3, I think it is, maybe. And then the reservoirs start at £1.95 for 5. So pricing wise, I think this is in a really lovely place. So it's about $100 for the pen Australian, and I think that's pretty good. 2 ends, the ability to, have the permanent marker, all that kind of stuff, and the highlighter. This is so practical. I've got a little black end sticker on that side. I haven't put anything on that side simply because I know that will be the highlighter. And I actually quite like that little TS, Tom Studio logo on there. So yeah, anodized aluminium. This is the matte black version. It's also coming in matte midnight, which is the same as the Lumos and the Ren that I have here. I quite like the black for this though. It's beautiful. So measurements, it is 142 millimeters when it's capped. It's about 12.5 millimeters in diameter and weighs 34 grams. It's very good. Now it comes with the black and the blue ink, and I've done a little swatch of those and the highlighter ink here. So you can see it's a nice rich dark black, nice vibrant sort of royal blue, and the highlighter yellow is definitely a highlighter yellow. And I've been using it as a highlighter. I'm a classical musician, and this is it highlighting part of a score I'm working on. You can see it looks nice and vibrant. It definitely brings out the text there. And if we look at sort of the reverse, it hasn't sort of bled through anywhere. It just highlights really, really nicely. So yeah, very, very happy with that as a highlighter. Then we have another test I wanted to show was this is the writing I did in the original video. I put this in my window on the 24th of June, so about 10 days ago. And there is, in terms of light fastness, it's holding really well. I know it's only a couple of weeks in the window, but, there's no fading or anything like that. The highlighter here again, I've got it on life stationery paper here, and I've just done a highlighter with a Parker Quink from a fountain pen, regular ballpoint and pencil. Yes, it moves around the ink. That is not a permanent ink, but the ballpoint there holds really well under the highlighter, and the pencil also looks really great. So here are the permanent inks. Now this sheet was left out in the rain. It got very damp, but the permanent, nothing has moved. So I have the cardboard, and then if you can see here, I put clear plastic tape on the bottom, and I've scribbled with the Ori marker from Tom Studio and then a regular Sharpie. And, they're both holding really tight. That's after being absolutely soaked. You can see how soaked that page is from the rain, or that piece of card. Here is a fresh version, and I'm just going to show you by dipping a Q-tip in some water, and then there's a tiny bit on the Q-tip there. Once again, tiny bit on the Q-tip there. And then if we run this over the plastic version, So like if you're marking up boxes or, you know, whatever, you can see here on the plastic tape and on the card, nothing is moving around. It is staying nice and tight. And I've taken that to another extreme. On this piece of paper, the black Tom Studio ink, the blue Tom Studio ink, and a Sharpie. So I hit them both with water on this side and then hit them both with drops of bleach on this side. You can see I moved it around a little bit and you can see like a bit has sort of swished around on the blue, nothing on the black really. Tiny little sort of maybe discoloration in the middle there. But on the Sharpie, you can see the bleach has actually, you know, sort of changed the color there. So these are good. You know, in terms of like permanence, light fastness, all that kind of stuff, they're doing a pretty solid job. Let's have a look at them on a couple of other surfaces. So here I have a glass. I'm not sure if the writing will pick up, but you can see I've written glass. That was with the Tom Studio, and then S glass, which is with the Sharpie. Now, you can see the Sharpie is darker on the glass. The Tom Studio one is a little bit lighter. So that is something to take into account. Here on glass, once again, like water and the Q-tip is taking both away there. And then we have the same here on a plastic soft drink bottle. So on the plastic bottle, the Tom Studio comes off a little more than the Sharpie. So I think in terms of, you know, the permanence or the light fastness, all that kind of stuff, I think these inks do a great job. I think the pen does an amazing job. Like I showed in the initial part of this video, a little writing sample with the pen, and it writes beautifully. It's nice and smooth. Generally speaking, it's holding quite nicely. The highlighter, I think, is fantastic. That highlighter tip is amazing. And there are other versions of the Ori you can get, sort of, you know, that are, you know, were originally designed for the highlighter, but it writes beautifully. So what are my pros and cons for the Tom Studio Ori, the infinitely refillable permanent marker duo marker pen? I'm going to start with a couple of cons. The first is that there's no clip or roll stop, and it does tie in well with their design aesthetic. I get that. But in terms of practicality, putting this in your pocket, in a case, something like that, that's not always the most practical. In a pencil case or chucking it in a, you know, if you want to chuck it in a toolkit or something like that, not an issue. But for everyday sort of carry, it doesn't attach anywhere. So just keep that in mind. The other only little niggly issue I have, or two niggly issues. First is that it can be removed just with water from some glossy surfaces. It says that it's good for glass, ceramic, wood, card, plastic, etc. And if you just get it wet, like if it's just like, you know, water running over it, it's fine. But if you it's something that you're cleaning, you will remove the marker. We saw that here, like on the glass. It did remove that quite easily just with water. So, you know, permanent to a point, definitely permanent on things like card and paper and all that kind of stuff. The other niggly issue, of course, is that infinite. Infinite in sense of it is refillable. This body is going to be infinitely refillable, but part of that refilling is buying not just ink, of course, but also the reservoirs and the tips when you want to. Now, you can clean them. If you wanted to change ink, you can clean the reservoirs particularly without sort of too much issue. But, you know, and you can store them. If you have ones you're using with a particular ink, like in a little ink sample vial or something like that, you can just put that reservoir and the tip in there. And actually, Tom Studio do sell a product for that. So that is also an option. But there are so many pros. Firstly, I want to say I think the price is a pro here. £45 or around 100 Australian dollars for this sort of base product is kind of brilliant. Especially when you think of, you know, the fact that it's kind of cool, it's different. And for me, it takes the place of two items in my pencil case, highlighter and permanent marker. I think being able to use a range of inks in this is amazing. Firstly, the permanent ink, you know, as I said, for everyday use, labeling a letter, something like that, very good. But also being able to use like highlighter ink and other fountain pen inks if you wanted just to make this like a marker, a general kind of marker using fountain pen ink. amazing. I think it's great. And the range of tips really ties in with that, with the brush tip and the bullet and then the chisel tip. I think the performance is very good. I think it's, you know, both in terms of the physical piece, its performance, like the threads are all nicely done. They lock down very comfortably and securely, all those kinds of things. It's great. But also in terms of the actual like tips on the page, they're good, they're solid. They lay down a pretty nice sort of solid line. It's very, very useful. Other things that I love are the fact that it is dual-ended. So I can have my highlighter and my marker all in one place, and using that permanent ink, it does give it some water resistance. You know, and it's not taking up sort of 2 slots in my pen case. So for someone who real estate in their, you know, carry is important, you know, I try and carry as little as I can. And so getting 2 for 1 here is a really great deal. The other thing is just, it's a beautiful design. It's sleek, it's simple. As I said, I love that TS in the end there. I think, you know, like when it's open, it looks, you know, it looks cool. It's got sort of like this interesting industrial sort of minimalist design, and I dig it. So that's the Ori Duo Marker Pen. It's certainly an interesting product. I think it's fantastic, and I think it ties beautifully in with the design and sustainability concept of Tom's Studio. So I hope you found that video interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe and hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. Also consider becoming a member of this channel. Your support makes this channel possible. In the meantime, enjoy your products. Don't forget to use the link in the video description here for a little discount off Tom's Studio products. And I'll talk to you soon.